All you need is love. That's what the Beatles said. I don't think they got it exactly right. I think the Rolling Stones were a little closer when they sang Angie. I still love you, baby, but it's not enough. And yet we're talking about love. Love is necessary. What do I mean by when I say all you need is love, but that they didn't get it right? Well, I think it's because in English, we only have the one word for love. And maybe we're talking about different things when we talk about love. And I've talked to you about this before, but maybe you weren't here because not everybody's here every year and for every sermon. And so I'm not going to assume you've heard this before. Love is necessary, but it's not sufficient. Partly because we're not using the same language. The Greeks had 4 words for love. Now, there's storge, which is like the love of familiarity. When you're just so accustomed to something, you love it because it's what you're used to. So I had these 2 cats. And I was going to say they fought like cats and dogs, but really they just fought like cats. They never seemed to get along. They were always at each other. But in one summer, our dog died, and the younger cat was doing all right, although she was best friends with the dog. But then the older cat died. The cat that she never seemed to get along with. And she was beside herself. She didn't know what to do with herself. She was familiar. It was a love of familiarity. People do this too. She lost what was known and familiar to her. And we experience that kind of love. Now there's eros. And this is often the love that people mean when we speak of love. Eros, erotic love, or the love of desire. My love of creme brulee is the love of desire. I have no desire to care for the creme brulee. I am not interested in the creme brulee's well-being beyond that it keeps well in the refrigerator until I'm ready to eat it. I am only interested in how well that creme brulee can serve my mouth and my belly. And sometimes often we treat other human beings with that kind of love. And often our first attraction to another person is in that desirous kind of way. But that kind of love, my friends, that is not all you need. And that's what the Rolling Stones sing about. Desire is not enough. That kind of love, that kind of want only serves my needs. popular music, classical music, all kinds of music is filled with songs about desire, desirous love. But that's a one-way street. Oh, it might be one way with two people. Two people might desire each other. But if that's all we have with each other, that's not a true relationship. That's not enough to make it last. Then there's philia. Philia love is sibling love. And that's pretty darn good. That does involve caring for one another. But it's not the ultimate love. It's not unconditional. Filial love is good and something to aim for, but it is not perfect love. The ultimate love is agape love, divine love, parental love, unconditional love. That love that puts everything on that other person. When I say puts everything on that other person comes first. The love I have for that other person or that community or the world is everything to me. Beyond my love for myself, I've put my whole being into that. And I think as humans, we rarely fully reach that, but it's what we might aim for. So there's a story in the Gospel of John about Jesus and Peter. Jesus, was a pretty smart and loving guy and a really good leader. He was a really good leader. And he asks Peter, do you love me more than these? But the thing is, when we're reading it in translation, everything just says love, 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 love. But what he's saying is, do you agape love me? Do you unconditionally, parentally love me? Do you have that kind of love for me? Your whole self love for me? And Simon Peter replies to him, yes, Lord, I philia love you. And Jesus said to him, feed my lambs. And Jesus asks him a second time, Simon, son of John, do you agape love me? And Simon answers him again, yes, Lord, I philia love you. Jesus says to him, take care of my sheep. And he asks a third time, Simon, son of John, do you agape love me? And Peter was sad that Jesus asked him a third time, do you agape love me? And he replied, Lord, you know everything. You know I philia love you. So Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. We can't force people to feel a way, to love a way that they don't love. We can't force anyone to feel anyway. But we can aspire to this. And notice that Jesus still tasks Peter with taking care of his flock, taking care of the followers. Jesus doesn't say, I'm so disappointed in you, or you failed, or, oh, forget it. Take care of my flock. But I think it's so important that we understand where we're coming from when we think about caring for one another. When we say we want to help to heal the world, is that coming from a place of love? What kind of love is that coming from? Bell Hooks, who just died, wrote this essay, which we heard just a piece of. She wrote it for Black people. And most of us here today are not Black, but we can learn from this. And she's talking about an ethic of love. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King talked about a gospel of love. We have to learn to do things in love. Sometimes we can get caught up in trying to do what we think is the right thing and getting angry at each other for not being, you kind of like a wokeness competition. And questioning each other's motives, not being as far along on the path as you know, I learned it, and you're not where I am yet, and especially progressive people can be especially hard on one another around this. And it's really important that we internalize this idea of love first. Now, that doesn't mean that therefore we accept and excuse all behaviors, that we don't pull one another back into covenant. We do, but we love one another back into covenant. When we fall out of covenant, what love means is that we are still in covenant with one another, but we gently pull one another back into covenant. We don't ridicule one another. We gently say things like, ouch, or, ooh, I wonder if you might rephrase that, or we speak to one another privately first. We do hold one another accountable, and we hold ourselves accountable. But we don't thrust one another out of the community for individual breaches of covenant. And we must learn to love ourselves as well. Now, Bell Hooks says that without an ethic of love shaping the direction of our political vision and our radical aspirations, we are often seduced in one way or the other into continued allegiance to systems of domination, imperialism, sexism, racism, classism. Isn't that interesting? We can get sucked in to systems of oppression without an ethic of love shaping us. That's another reason to have this ethic of love. And why do you suppose that is? I think it's because without the ethic of love, without the gospel of love, without that foundation of love, we buy into that dominant culture. We buy into all those things and sometimes into that self-loathing. I'm going to post in the chat, in fact, a link to the whole essay. And this, I took this essay from an academic site. So there are actually academic questions. There's a preface to it and academic questions that follow it. So you can do the whole academic exercise if you like, or just read the essay. But I think that's because if we don't have an ethic of love, and I think that includes self-love, we buy in to the dominant culture, to the systems of oppression. So we must examine things carefully. And when we have an ethic of love, and I'm talking about at least filial love and aiming always for agape love, that unconditional love, recognizing that each of us carries a piece of that divine spark. That means we have to see one another as completely and fully human, as equals, not as other, but as equals. Now, Bell Hooks also said, knowing how to be solitary is central to the art of loving. When we can be alone, we can be with others without using them as a means of escape. When we can be alone, we can be with others without using them as a means of escape. I think that fits in so well with the themes of the solstice, heading into the darkness, sitting in that space for a while. Let us be alone with ourselves, with our thoughts, and learn to love ourselves. I'm going to give you some homework between now and Christmas. I would like you to write down somewhere, write it down, something that you truly love about yourself. What do you truly love about yourself? You don't have to share it with anyone if you don't want to. But what do you love about yourself? Beloveds, I love so much about all of you. I love that this congregation comes back again and again, even in times when we're frightened, and we keep at the work. I love your engagement. I love your faces. I love how you've tried so hard to learn all these new technologies over the last couple of years. I hope you love those things too. What do you love about yourself? Love is necessary. And with love, we can do all the things that are sufficient. We can build the beloved community together. We can help to heal the world. We can build the world that we seek.